agony is over. The long agony is over. With those words, Corazon Aquino officially marked the transfer of power in the Philippines. There was some, but little bloodshed reported today. There is much blood in the Philippines' political history, including the blood of Aquino's own husband. One political career ended by gunfire, another begun. Bob Schieffer profiles the new president of the Philippines.
Her ability always to smile, that and her devotion to her family and her husband and her religious faith. Those were the things that people always told you about Cory Aquino during the years when she and her husband were in exile in this country. And then Benigno Aquino, the main political opponent of Ferdinand Marcos, went back to Manila, and all of this happened. Her friends say that was when they learned there was more to Cory Aquino than just graciousness. And they say that even though Cory Aquino did not understand it at the time, it was during the period of grief that her faith deepened, and that as her personal tragedy began to touch millions of Filipinos as nothing had ever touched them before, that her political career really began.
Her quality of serenity, perhaps is the word, permitted her to keep that coffin open for 9 days. She, in fact, started a political campaign which she herself was unaware of. The millions of people who showed at Ninoy's funeral were the same millions that showed at this election.
Cory Aquino graduated from Mount St. Vincent College in New York, where she's remembered as a popular student, one whose wealthy Filipino family always sent her to Catholic schools. The deep attachment to the church drew her closer to the Philippine Archbishop Jaime Cardinal Sin, who convinced her that only she could bring together the forces that opposed Marcos. It may well be her faith that old-time politicians will find unsettling.
She will get on her knees and pray. They will be dumbfounded and not know how to handle it. That is, all of those smooth and slick politicians who've been in the business for 35 or 40 years are likely to be very disarmed by a management style that comes out of a confessional booth.
What was so amazing about her campaign was that while she had no political experience, she soon showed remarkable political instincts. Her first name, Corazon, means the heart, but she told voters to call her Cory, and they loved it. Always she wore yellow to remind them of the yellow ribbons from her husband's funeral, and they remembered. But if it was unlikely that she would be the one to drive Ferdinand Marcos from the Philippines, it may require a miracle to resolve what is ahead. On top of all the other problems, she must find some way to bring the military that helped thrust her into power back under civilian control, something that already worries Henry Kissinger.
Now that the army is out of the barracks and involved in politics, they may find this a heady experience and prefer to be in Manila rather than out in the boondocks fighting.
Ask how she will handle the presidency and you will get a variety of answers. But some time back she said that what the Philippine people needed was someone who was the complete opposite of Ferdinand Marcos. And there seems no argument from anyone that in Cory Aquino, that is just what they got. This is Bob Schieffer in New York.
For Corazon Aquino, the political battle has been won, but a larger battle looms: the military struggle against communist rebels. As Pentagon correspondent David Martin reports tonight, the Philippine Army may not be very well prepared to meet that challenge.
Ferdinand Marcos and his crony General Fabian Ver are gone, but the new People's Army, an estimated 16,000 communist insurgents, remains as a threat to democracy in the Philippines and to the future of the American military bases. According to Pentagon officials, the guerrillas already control or influence 1 of every 5 Filipino villages. The army which must fight them is 70,000 strong, and for the moment at least, popular with the Filipino people, a critical factor in a battle for hearts and minds. Despite the present euphoria, the army is by all accounts a disaster area.
They've been badly demoralized from a process of degenerating domestic conditions, from cronyism, from corruption and the like, for a number of years. So in terms of their effectiveness as a military instrument, their combat readiness, it's highly suspect.
Feared as the enforcers of martial law, so unprofessional that officers lead not by example but by intimidation, starved of equipment by a government that devoted less of its gross national product to defense than any other Southeast Asian nation, the Army has a long road back.
The corruption and the politicizing by Marcos of the armed forces has been done so deeply that it will take time to professionalize.
Their needs are basic.
Training that will be relevant to the existing insurgency problem. Then, of course, equipment. We have no equipment.
I would think one of the main areas that need to be emphasized is the issue of recreating basic training units in the Philippines. When an enlisted man joins the Philippine Army, he doesn't go through a training program, he goes directly into a unit.
The U.S. originally planned to send $55 million in military aid this year, and now almost certainly will send more.
Our country has an obligation to help revive and restore the Philippine military, which has quite obviously been distracted from the task of dealing with the insurgency for an extended period of time.
Some U.S. officials say the Philippines needs the same kind of assistance the Pentagon is presently providing El Salvador. If so, that could bring increased public concern about U.S. military involvement in another guerrilla war. This is David Martin.
Joyful, jubilant. Yeah.
You surprised that it came?
No, because we're praying for that for the last 20 years.
Until he had really left, gone out physically, I still would not believe it.
Smiles, laughter, good thoughts about the future, they said, after 20 years of Philippine suffering in the past under the Marcos regime.
What I am worrying now is retaliation of the people that was harmed by the previous administrations.
The feelings is still inside. We can forgive, but we cannot forget. That's the thing about us Filipinos. But
as for a possible asylum for Marcos in the United States, people here oppose it.
Filipinos fought Spaniards, Americans, Japanese, just to get our freedom. And after we got that freedom, only one man took it away from us.
South Jersey just held a special mass last Saturday and prayed for nonviolent change.